It's not by chance that you're viewing this video. There's a reason you're here. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing of your life and know that you're being led to where you're meant to be. As you stumble on this video, perhaps not by chance, it will serve to awaken your spirit. There is something that God desires to reveal to your spirit. You have been walking a path that has not always made sense to your natural mind. You have turned away from opportunities that may have looked appealing on the surface. You have remained hidden when your human nature longed to be seen. You have chosen consistency and faithfulness when giving into chaos would have been easier. What you may not yet realize is this: your discipline has preserved your destiny. This message is not merely meant to encourage you, it is a divine alert, a holy confirmation. God wants you to understand that your refusal to compromise did more than just please Him. It also protected you from dangers that were invisible to you. Let us take a moment to break this down into 7 deep and revealing chapters, because the truth behind your discipline is far greater than you may have imagined. Before we begin this profound exploration, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe, not because this is ordinary content, but because it is a divine alert specifically intended for the disciplined and chosen ones. If your spirit resonates with the frequency of this message, I invite you to type 77 in the comments below. That number is not merely symbolic, it is a prophetic code, an act of confirmation before the Most High in the spirit realm. It signifies that you have remained in divine alignment, that you have resisted temptation, and that you are now prepared to receive the reward your discipline has preserved for you. Not everyone will be able to comprehend the full weight of this message. Only those who have passed the secret tests, endured the battles that were never seen, and remained loyal even when no one was watching. If you are still present, it is because you were chosen and entrusted with what is about to be revealed. This is not merely a one-time message, it is a living, breathing revelation. Return to it whenever your spirit prompts you to. For each time you do, you will uncover a new layer, a deeper truth, and a divine insight that God intentionally tucked within it, reserved specifically for those who have walked the path of discipline. You are the chosen one. There are battles that God fights on your behalf, battles you may never witness or even be aware of, because His protection often manifests not in dramatic displays, but in silence. The enemy sets traps with great precision. They are well-timed, cleverly disguised, and specifically tailored to target your unique weaknesses. Yet in His mercy, God reroutes your path. He does not always speak with a loud voice. Sometimes His guidance comes as a quiet prompting in your spirit, a closed door, or a delayed response. And in those subtle moments, His divine protection is at work. There was a sudden shift in your desires, subtle, yet divinely orchestrated. You didn't see the conversations unfolding behind closed doors. You weren't aware of the hidden plots carefully designed to confuse your mind and divert your purpose. You didn't hear the slander whispered in secret places, nor were you conscious of the demonic whispers that sought to exploit your frustration, weariness, and loneliness. But heaven heard it all. Heaven saw every weapon being formed against you, and heaven stepped in, intervening before any of it could prosper. You came dangerously close to becoming entangled in something that appeared harmless, something that may have even looked holy. It could have arrived disguised as a divine opportunity. It may have come in the form of a person who spoke all the right words but carried the wrong spirit. It might have looked like a long-awaited breakthrough, but hidden beneath was a breakdown waiting to unfold. It could have been a relationship, a partnership, a business venture, or a connection. On the surface, wrapped in light, seemingly perfect. But underneath, it carried consequences you could not see. Spiritual attachments, emotional wounds, and delays that would have cost you years of progress. Had you stepped into it without discernment, it would have drained your energy, distracted your focus, and polluted the sacred oil upon your life. But you didn't take the bait. You didn't move out of impulse. You didn't respond to pressure. Instead, you chose discipline. You remained faithful even when the journey didn't feel fair. You stayed focused even when distractions arrived dressed as destiny. You chose peace over popularity. You chose purpose over pressure. And in doing so, you position yourself for the greater things God has prepared for you. Chapter 1. God fought battles in silence. The dangers you never saw were real. Chosen one, understand this. The dangers you never saw were, in fact, very real. Yet they never reached you, not because of your strength or awareness, but because there are battles God fights on your behalf, conflicts waged in the unseen, victories secured in silence, for his protection does not always arrive with thunder or visible force, but often cloaks itself in quiet restraint. And though the enemy sets traps with great precision, they are well-timed, cleverly disguised, and specifically tailored to target your unique weaknesses. Yet in his mercy, God reroutes your path. He does not always speak with a loud voice. Sometimes his guidance comes as a quiet prompting in your spirit, a closed door, or a delayed response. And in those subtle moments, his divine protection is at work. There was a sudden shift in your desires, subtle, yet divinely orchestrated. You didn't see the conversations unfolding behind closed doors. You weren't aware of the hidden plots carefully designed to confuse your mind and divert your purpose. You didn't hear the slander whispered in secret places, nor were you conscious of the demonic whispers that sought to exploit your frustration, weariness, and loneliness. But heaven heard it all. Heaven saw every weapon being formed against you, and heaven stepped in, intervening before any of it could prosper. You came dangerously close to becoming entangled in something that appeared harmless, something that may have even looked holy. It could have arrived disguised as a divine opportunity. It may have come in the form of a person who spoke all the right words but carried the wrong spirit. It might have looked like a long-awaited breakthrough, but hidden beneath was a breakdown waiting to unfold. It could have been a relationship, a partnership, a business venture, or a connection. On the surface, wrapped in light, seemingly perfect. But underneath, it carried consequences you could not see, spiritual attachments, emotional wounds and delays that would have cost you years of progress. Had you stepped into it without discernment, it would have drained your energy, distracted your focus, and polluted the sacred oil upon your life. But you didn't take the bait. You didn't move out of impulse. You didn't respond to pressure. Instead, you chose discipline. You remained faithful even when the journey didn't feel fair. You stayed focused even when distractions arrived dressed as destiny. You chose peace over popularity. You chose purpose over pressure. And in doing so, you positioned yourself for the greater things God has prepared for you. What felt like a quiet no in your spirit was, in reality, the sound of angels being dispatched to clear your path. It was not a coincidence. It was not random. It was divine strategy. God was shielding you from dangers that your natural eyes could not perceive. But your spirit, sensitive and surrendered, discerned their presence. He allowed you to walk right past situations that had your name written on them, traps specifically designed for you, because your discipline, your obedience, and your sensitivity to his voice caused your steps to be divinely redirected. There were rooms you never entered, opportunities you never pursued, and connections you never made. Because had you done so, they would have stripped you of your confidence, dimmed your light, and delayed your destiny. And in every quiet moment when you chose to honor God in private, when no one was watching and no applause was given, he was building a hedge of protection around your purpose in the unseen realm. You didn't merely avoid danger, you overcame a spiritual ambush designed to derail your destiny. That is why you are still standing today. That is why you still have peace in your heart and clarity in your spirit. That is why your life remains aligned with God's will. Because even when your eyes could not see the danger ahead, your discipline, shaped by obedience and spiritual sensitivity, recognized it. And that discipline, rooted in faith, saved you. Chapter 2. Discipline doesn't feel heroic, but it's holy. Let's be honest, chosen one. Discipline rarely feels glamorous. It doesn't come with fireworks, applause, or recognition. More often than not, it feels invisible, unrewarded, and at times deeply exhausting. While others seem to move quickly, take shortcuts, and enjoy instant results, you are being called to a slower, more intentional path. To wait patiently, to walk faithfully, and to trust deeply. You say no to things that others don't even pause to consider. You rise early, not because someone is watching, but because your spirit is committed. You pray in secret without applause or affirmation. You serve with a heart that is often weary, yet remains willing. Your discipline may not feel heroic in the moment, but in the eyes of heaven, it is holy. Every quiet sacrifice, every unnoticed act of obedience, every decision to choose what is right over what is easy is building something eternal. You are being shaped not for speed, but for strength, not for applause, but for alignment. Discipline often feels like silence, especially when your soul is yearning for affirmation. It feels like patience in moments when your flesh desperately wants tangible proof. It feels like unwavering faithfulness when the results still seem distant and unclear. And while the world may celebrate bold, loud, and visible moves, God honors the quiet obedience carried out in secret. In the realm of the Spirit, every act of discipline becomes a sword. Every quiet no you whispered in the face of temptation became a weapon of resistance. Every time you denied your flesh its desires, it was a strike against the forces of darkness. Each moment you chose to obey God in the midst of confusion and uncertainty, you were actively writing victory into the invisible realms. Heaven responded. Spiritual atmosphere shifted on your behalf. Angels were being dispatched in alignment with your obedience, and the enemy's carefully crafted plans were being dismantled, piece by piece, not because of what the world saw, but because of what God honored in the unseen. It wasn't because you shouted or made noise that heaven responded. It was because you remained aligned. You didn't cheat the process to accelerate your progress. You didn't manipulate the timeline to make things happen on your own terms. You didn't manufacture results to appear more anointed, more capable, or more ready than you truly were. You didn't reach for what wasn't yours in a desperate attempt to feel validated. You didn't skip levels or force visibility just to be seen. Instead, you chose to stay planted. You endured the pruning even when it was painful. You honored God's timing even when it didn't match your own. And because of that, you are being shaped not just for a moment, but for a lasting impact rooted in divine purpose. And because of your obedience and alignment, the enemy's strategy failed before it ever reached you. You never even realized how close the attack came because your consistency became your covering. What looked like limitation to others, what even felt like restriction to you, was actually divine protection in disguise. It wasn't confinement, it was redirection. It wasn't a setback, it was heaven holding you up, not holding you back. This is the place where many people fall, not in the heat of battle, but in the monotony of waiting, not during the storm, but in the silence that follows. In those seasons where nothing appears to be happening, where results are slow and rewards seem rare, that is where the undisciplined begin to drift. That is where many lose heart, give in to restlessness, and step out of alignment. But you didn't. You stayed. You remained rooted when your emotions urged you to run. You chose depth over escape. You dug deeper, planted stronger, and clung to purpose even when the process felt barren. And in doing so, you positioned yourself for a harvest that only the faithful ever see. And here's the truth. Discipline is not merely about self-control. It is about spiritual authority. When you choose to walk in discipline, you are also walking in dominion. Discipline becomes your declaration to the spirit realm, a bold and unwavering statement that you trust God more than you trust your own impulses. It proclaims that you believe in His timing, even when it doesn't align with your personal timeline. It reveals that you are willing to submit your emotions, your desires, and your understanding beneath the weight of His instructions. In doing so, you are not just demonstrating control, you are stepping into alignment with heaven's order and carrying the authority that comes from surrender. And that trust, that sacred, unseen trust, gave God divine permission to intervene on your behalf. It allowed Him to step in, to shut down the attacks that were forming against you, to cancel the enemy's assignments, and to rebuke the devourer with authority and finality. While others may have looked at your life and thought you were doing too much, heaven knew that you were doing just enough to shift the trajectory of your entire future. Discipline may not be flashy, but it is undeniably holy. And holiness, chosen one, is the highway of divine protection. It is what separates those who fall early from those who endure. It is what distinguishes fleeting impact from lasting legacy. Holiness is what transforms quiet, ordinary obedience into supernatural elevation. You didn't just remain disciplined, you remained dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Your persistence disrupted plans in the unseen realm. And now, because of all you sustained in private, God is preparing to honor you in public. What was once hidden will be revealed. What was once planted in secret will now bear visible fruit. Heaven never missed a moment. And now reward is on the way. Chapter 3. The moment you wanted to break, God blocked something. There was a moment, or perhaps several, when the weight on your soul felt unbearable. Your flesh was exhausted. Your spirit was drained. You looked around and watched others moving quickly, achieving milestones, celebrating victories, and appearing to thrive, all while you remained in a season of waiting, wandering, and wilderness. In your weariness, you were tempted to loosen your standards. You felt the urge to lower your guard, to quiet the convictions that had once kept you firmly aligned with your purpose. There was a pull, subtle yet strong, to snap under pressure, to quit the assignment altogether, to take a shortcut that seemed easier and more comfortable than the narrow path you were walking. You considered returning to what was familiar, even though you knew it wasn't fruitful. You began to question the very foundation of your obedience. You asked yourself, what's the point of all this discipline? You felt ready to say, maybe I should just do what everyone else is doing. Maybe obedience isn't worth it after all. However, something deeper within you refused to give in. A sacred, almost divine force urged you to stand firm. Though you couldn't articulate it logically, you sensed it in your spirit. Do not move. Do not act out of emotion. Do not retaliate. Do not flee. Do not compromise your worth for a temporary solution. At the time, you didn't fully understand it, but that very moment was a spiritual crossroads. Had you taken even a single wrong step, a reaction driven by emotion, a bitter outburst, or a careless compromise, the enemy would have gained legal ground against you. You were unaware of how near the ambush truly was. You couldn't see the demonic forces specifically assigned to hinder your progress. You couldn't hear the whispers from the depths of darkness, eagerly hoping you would break under the weight of pressure. You didn't perceive the intricate network of traps poised to spring the moment you diverted your gaze from God. But heaven saw everything. Because you remained grounded, even in the midst of frustration and exhaustion, God intervened. He severed the enemy's access, silenced the mouths of monitoring spirits, and closed the doors that had been crafted to disguise destruction as destiny. He stopped the lies before they could pierce your heart and dispatched angels to guard your steps and recalibrate your emotions. What you thought was merely surviving a difficult day was, in the spiritual realm, the successful passing of a high-level test. You did not prevail through noise, but through restraint. You did not overcome with a sword, but with stillness. You did not react, and in that stillness, you conquered. That silence was your strategy, and that was exactly what the enemy did not anticipate. He assumed your weariness would lead to recklessness. He mistook your silence for surrender. He believed your isolation would result in compromise. But instead, your unwavering refusal to give up invited divine intervention. You were stronger than you realized, not because you raised your voice, but because you remained surrendered. You were wiser than you felt, for you allowed the Spirit to lead rather than your pain. The moment you felt ready to break was in fact the very moment heaven declared you were ready for more. You endured. You passed the test. And you didn't even realize how dangerously close hell came to your doorstep because your obedience kept the door firmly locked. So do not diminish that moment, chosen one. It may not have felt like a victory, but it was one of the most profound triumphs of your life. Not won by force, but by faithful resistance. Chapter 4. God rewards what man never sees. There was no applause the day you said no to temptation. No one reposted your act of obedience. There wasn't a standing ovation when you turned down the opportunity that could have elevated your ego, but compromised your soul. You didn't trend for choosing purity. You didn't go viral for walking away from gossip. No one applauded you for remaining silent while slander flew in your direction. but heaven saw it all. God never overlooks what is done in private. Not a single act of obedience went unnoticed. Not one quiet moment of surrender was wasted. While people focused on who you appeared to be, God was paying attention to who you chose to be when no one else was watching. He witnessed the battles you fought and won when only angels were clapping. He saw every tear you cried when your only reward was peace of mind. Because the truth is this: God rewards what man never sees. And he took note of your restraint, your reverence, and your righteous resistance. You didn't remain disciplined for attention or applause. You weren't doing it to prove anything to the world. It was never about striving for perfection. It was about staying in position, remaining aligned with purpose, and guarding your purity. Deep within, your spirit recognized that you were called to a higher standard, and something unshakable within you refused to bow to anything beneath that calling. While others chased what glittered, you walked away. While many rushed ahead, you chose to wait. While voices rose in reckless speech, you held your tongue. And even when you had every reason to withhold, you gave, because you were not living for the approval of people, but for the quiet affirmation of God. Every unseen choice you made became a testimony in the courts of heaven, not because your discipline was merely about behavior, but because it was always about alignment. And now, as a result of what you chose not to do, doors are about to open that no man can shut. Because of what you turned down, divine appointments are being orchestrated on your behalf. Because of what you walked away from, God is leading you into places others had to fight to enter. Not because you were better, but because you were trustworthy, because you demonstrated the rare ability to carry power without compromising purity. And now blessings are preparing to overtake you, not as a reward for performance, but as a sign that God can trust you with what others mishandled. A trust not built overnight, but forged in secret, in moments unseen, when obedience cost more than compromise. And still, you chose obedience. God does not reward perfection, but posture. The posture of a heart that remains surrendered even when the flesh is screaming, that echoes, "Not my will, but yours be done." And your posture, chosen one, was one of humility, integrity, and secret obedience. And that is what sets you apart from the crowd. For you were not merely behaving well, but being governed by God. And the divine discipline you embraced has now become a gateway to favor. So do not be surprised when things begin to align, when people begin to recognize you, when platforms begin to open. For it is not that you have changed, but that heaven is now publicly responding to what you privately passed. And the reward is not arriving because people noticed. It is arriving because God recorded it. And what he records, he always rewards. Not always when you expect it, but always when you are ready for it. And, chosen one, now you are. Chapter 5. Your discipline exposed the enemy's limitations, for while he hoped you would break, banking on your exhaustion to turn into rebellion and confidently applying pressure through loneliness, delay, betrayal, and confusion, he devised subtle temptations, crafted emotional distractions, and whispered lies into your quietest moments, assuming that if he could shake your emotions long enough, your convictions would eventually crumble. But you did not give in, and that exposed something the enemy never wanted revealed, that he holds no real power over someone fully surrendered to God. For you did not win this round through loud warfare, nor by casting out demons, laying hands on the situation, shouting, striving, or sweating to prove your power. You simply stayed put, said no to the bait, and remained still, trusting God even when nothing made sense. And that stillness, that surrender, paralyzed every plot of darkness forming around your destiny. For the enemy underestimated you, mistaking your silence for weakness and your discipline for distance from God. Yet while he watched for noise, you were rooted in knowing, and while he hoped you would lash out, you chose instead to lean in. And as he waited for you to explode, you were quietly expanding, in wisdom, in patience, and in spiritual authority. And that is what scares him the most, because now he knows that you are not just chosen, but trained, not merely anointed, but disciplined, unmoved by compliments or criticisms, unshaken by delay or distraction, and fully anchored in the truth. a truth that hell cannot twist. And you did not survive this season by luck, but by discipline. And every time you remained faithful instead of frustrated, it sent a clear message into the spirit realm that this one cannot be bought, will not fold under pressure, knows the word more deeply than their own will, and is dangerous not merely because of their light, but because of their unwavering loyalty. For that kind of obedience terrifies the enemy, knowing that while flashy gifts can be counterfeited, consistent discipline is forged in fire. And the very fire you walked through did not burn you. It built you. So now you're not merely surviving attacks, but being shaped by them. You're not just dodging traps, but discerning them in advance. And though the enemy threw everything he could, you still did not bow, still did not waver when he whispered to your doubts, still kept walking when the path grew hard. And now he knows he is dealing with someone unstoppable, someone guarded by grace and governed by truth, someone who no longer reacts in emotion, but responds in righteousness. For hell's greatest fear is not the loud believer, but the disciplined one, the one who stays planted when storms come, who doesn't chase crowds but listens for the quiet instruction of God, who not only speaks the word but lives it in private. And you are that one. You are the threat, not because you sought recognition, but because you remained righteous without it. And that discipline, that sacred obedience, exposed the enemy's limits and activated heaven's reward. So from this moment forward, hell cannot touch what discipline built. Chapter 6. A divine revelation awaits. God is about to unveil what you were divinely protected from. Very soon, chosen one, the veil will be lifted. The quiet season you endured, the discipline you upheld, and the decisions you made in solitude, all of it is about to gain profound clarity. The Lord is preparing to reveal why He asked you to wait, why He closed certain doors, why He distanced specific individuals from your life, and why He permitted delay after delay, even when you believed you were ready to move forward. He will show you what He blocked, what He uprooted, and what He saved you from, not to instill fear, but to affirm His unwavering faithfulness. This revelation is not meant to burden you with regret, but to awaken your awareness of just how intentional and serious heaven has been concerning your protection. You have been walking under divine covering far greater than you realized. What you once mistook for abandonment in silence, what you assumed was rejection through closed doors, what you interpreted as personal failure and unanswered prayers, all of it was, in truth, the careful orchestration of a God who was working behind the scenes. He was rearranging circumstances, removing unseen threats, and shielding you from harm, all while you remain committed to alignment with His will. You will begin to witness individuals entangled in circumstances you nearly found yourself in. You will hear testimonies from those who ventured down the very paths you once considered, and a sobering realization will arise within you. That could have been me, but God intervened. You will come to recognize how a single yes to the wrong person, a single no to the prompting of the Holy Spirit, or one emotionally driven decision could have cost you everything. And this realization will not instill fear, but reverent awe, an awe born from the awareness that your obedience truly mattered. Your surrender, your patience, your discipline, none of it was in vain. It was not merely about developing your character. It was about preserving your destiny. You're about to understand that what once felt like restriction was, in fact, divine rescue. What appeared to be delay was actually a carefully orchestrated detour. What seemed like loss was, in reality, the mercy of God, removing what was never intended to remain in your life. Some doors did not open because behind them were covenants that would have drained your purpose. Some relationships never blossomed because they were laced with hidden motives and spiritual toxicity. Some opportunities faded from your grasp because they were distractions, cunningly designed to divert you from the divine mission God assigned to your soul before the foundations of the world were laid. And here is the truth. Had you not exercised discipline, you likely would have accepted what was never meant for you. Had you moved prematurely, you might have mistaken deception for divine favor and unknowingly walked into a carefully disguised trap. But because you remained rooted, because you sought the guidance of the Spirit before making decisions, God was granted the space to intervene and intercept. Some individuals did not walk away because they rejected you. Rather, heaven removed them intentionally. They were assigned not to bless you, but to derail your purpose, deplete your strength, and disrupt the sacred oil upon your life. Yet in his mercy, God did not allow the attachment to even take form. He canceled the connection before it had the chance to develop. He severed the tie before it could entangle you. He exposed intentions and revealed hearts before their influence could corrupt your own. And soon God will allow you to see it all with unmistakable clarity, the near misses, the spiritual collisions that never occurred, the demonic schemes that were poised to devour you, but could not penetrate the fortress built by your discipline. You will look back and realize that every no was a divine shield, every delay a protective barrier, every disappointment a form of deliverance. Even the isolation you endured was not abandonment, but a concealed sanctuary, crafted by heaven to preserve you, protect your calling, and prepare you for what is now being revealed. Chapter 7. Destiny through Discipline. Because you remain disciplined, your destiny is now being unlocked. This is the reward of obedience, the result of choosing not to compromise, even when it was difficult, inconvenient, or lonely. What you are now witnessing is the manifestation of what your tears, your patience, and your private surrender have been nurturing all along. Now that the danger has passed and the season of testing is drawing to a close, God is releasing your next. Not merely because time has progressed, but because you have matured into what He prepared for you. You are not being blessed by chance. You are being elevated by divine alignment. You passed the tests no one knew you were taking. You made the hard, quiet decisions when there was no applause, no recognition. You chose faithfulness over shortcuts and spiritual integrity over the enemy's enticing offers of fast progress and shallow distractions. The doors that were once delayed are about to open wide, without resistance or restriction. Heaven is releasing people, provision, and platforms that are perfectly aligned with the assignment upon your life. Connections that were previously blocked are now being divinely reintroduced, this time at the right moment and with the right spirit. Opportunities are not being chased. They are being drawn to you, magnetized by the force of your discipline and unwavering faithfulness. This is divine release. This is promotion birthed from purity. This is what it looks like when God says, "Now that I can trust you, I can elevate you." This is access granted by the key of discipline. You are not behind, you are not late, you are exactly on heaven's schedule. Every moment of waiting, every season of refining, every delay was divinely strategic. Everything you were kept from was preparing you for everything you are now stepping into. God had to preserve the version of you that would be mature enough, faithful enough, and wise enough to carry the weight and responsibility of what is coming next. And now that version of you, the one refined through discipline rather than shortcuts, has fully emerged. God is proud of you. The enemy is intimidated by you. And heaven is moving on your behalf, orchestrating divine details, shifting timelines, and releasing instructions to those appointed to bless and assist you. What once felt like being overlooked was, in truth, God overprotecting you, shielding you until the atmosphere, timing, and alignment were fully prepared. Chosen one, never underestimate the power of a disciplined life. It did more than help you grow. It saved you. It did more than preserve your purity. It preserved your position. It did more than delay destruction. It secured your future. Now everything that was once locked behind the gate of spiritual obedience is being opened. Not by force, not by striving, but by the authority of divine timing and the reward of your unwavering discipline. And now the doors are opening in a way that no person, no critic, no deceiver, no demonic force can ever shut again. You did not miss your moment. In fact, you protected it. You preserved it through restraint, nurtured it through purity, and stewarded it in silence. And because you remain surrendered, your next level has now been supernaturally activated. So walk into it boldly. Do not second guess it. Do not apologize for it. Do not hesitate to claim it, because you did not steal this moment, nor did you manipulate your way into it. You arrived here through obedience, and obedience is the highest form of honor you can offer to God, and He always responds to honor with elevation. This is your unlocking. This is your divine unveiling. The world is about to witness what heaven has been shaping in secret. Your discipline did not delay you, it distinguished you. And now the doors are swinging open, the spotlight is shifting, and destiny itself is waiting. Go forward with confidence. You didn't merely survive this season, you qualified for the next one. And if you're still hungry for more chapters to this journey, or a visual concept for a video or thumbnail, just say the word. I'm here and ready to help bring it all to life. Thanks for watching. Here ends this video. Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe if you find this video interesting.